My name is Sam Pace. I lead a ministry I call P1824. The aim of this ministry is to encourage you to go outdoors with friends and family and enjoy the beauty and abundance of God's magnificent creation. P1824 comes from the proverb in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 24 in the Old Testament, which says, "There is a friend who sticks closer than a brother." We all need a friend like that in our lives, and the great outdoors is a wonderful way to share life with the people you love. In our video today, I'm solo fishing near Leadville, Colorado, on a small lake called Crystal Lake. This lake is a great place to start getting into fishing for rainbow trout. Rainbows are feisty fish to catch for both fun and food. They put up a pretty good fight. They taste great too. My specific mission today is to demonstrate how to successfully chase and retrieve these beautiful little fish, aptly named the rainbow trout for their beautiful colors. This particular lake is a wonderful place to start to learn how to catch trout on light and inexpensive fishing tackle. This lake is stocked annually, and the fish here are very aggressive when they're on the feed. While I prefer to use my fly rod to catch these trout, typically, today I'm using ultralight fishing hardware. I mentioned the specific gear I'm using throughout the video, and at the end of the video I provide a list of that gear. My approach today is to use simple gear that anyone can use and most people can easily afford. Fishing for rainbow trout doesn't have to be highly complex or super expensive. With a little education and a small set of fishing gear, you can be on your way to catching these wonderful little fish. I made this video on June 1st, 2020, and what I can guarantee you is this, that on June 1st, 2020, the gear that I used was perfect for the conditions. In fact, I fished for about 2.5 hours at two different points during the day, and I caught 26 fish on this very light tackle, very simple gear. The rod that I'm using today is a St. Croix Trout Series 5.5 foot ultralight rod. I'm also using a Fluger, one of their reels that is an ultralight reel. It's important to have a rod and reel combination that go together nicely. In this case, that does work very well. You also might want to consider using a rod that's not quite as expensive as the St. Croix line. You could buy an inexpensive rod, whether it's an ugly stick or an eagle rod or a Berkeley rod or some kind of an inexpensive rod that's probably under $50. And for this kind of fishing, it'll work pretty well. You'll also maybe even be able to find a less expensive ultralight reel than the one that I'm using today by Fluger. You can find them from $30 to $50 in several different kinds. I like the Shimano ultralight reels quite well, although I think the bearings on the lesser expensive reels tend to wear out just a little bit sooner. You'll also want to make sure that you're using a very light line because you're going to be casting a lure that's a 1/8 ounce lure. And so you want to make sure that you use something like a 2-pound or a 4-pound test line. I like to use 2-pound trilene monofilament. That works very well for me. The cast that I'm getting out of this particular rig is going out as much as 60 feet, sometimes as much as 70 feet. So I've got a little bit of wind to my back. So let's talk for a minute about fly fishing versus spin casting. Well, when you talk to enough fishermen, you find out that there's kind of about 3 different tiers of fishermen that are out there. You have the fishermen that like to use bait. They use bait casters. They put bait on the bottom. And if you talk to enough fishermen, you'll realize that we kind of consider them to be, well, the bottom feeders of the fisherman crew. Sure, they are fishermen. Yes, they're catching fish, but they're using live bait or they're using various kinds of bait to catch their fish. And they're really not fishing. They're more or less hoping that a fish comes by and grabs the bait and they get to take it home with them. Then there's another level of fishermen that use hardware. We like to throw hardware. We like to use spoons and spinning lures. We like to use hard body baits and jerk baits and different kinds of baits like that. And then there's kind of like the upper echelon of the fishing community, and that would be the fly fishermen. Well, they seem to think that they've got it all together and that the only real way to fish is to use the sophisticated system of using flies to catch fish. Now, the reason I use flies to catch fish is because it's a very effective way of doing it. In fact, in many cases, I can actually catch more fish using flies than I can using hardware. And even once in a while, I'm willing to throw out a worm and let it sit on the bottom until the fish comes along. But most of the time, I like to be active. And in this particular case today, I'm using spinning lures. This particular spinning lure that I'm using is what is called the Panther Martin spinning lure. Now, when you go to the store and you look at all the different spinning lures that are out there, you'll see there's a whole bunch of them. And the one that I like to use the most is the Panther Martins. And I like to use them because they work virtually all the time. They're not perfect, but when you throw it out there, it's most often going to spin and do its job without a lot of complications. You'll also notice when you take a look at the options that you have available to you in spinners that there's all different kinds. They got brown trout imitations, they got rainbow trout imitations, they have black, they have white, they have brown, they have blue, they have all these different hues and different colors. If you want to catch trout in Colorado, especially on June the 1st, 2020, I'd recommend that you just start using the Panther Martin 1/8 ounce black on black spinning lure. What I mean by that is it's going to have a black spinner, a black body, and will probably also have a black hook or a black treble hook. That combination here in Colorado seems to work for me almost year-round. It's a great lure. If you have to choose the ones that are black. If they don't have them, you might want to grab the ones that are black with gold or black with red specks, and also the Panther Martin lures that are yellow with red or yellow with pink dots are also very, very effective. So let's talk for another moment about how much money you should spend to do fishing like this. Now, I said earlier I've used some gear that's a little more expensive than you might want to spend. If you were going to set aside some money to buy this gear, I would recommend that you go out and you find a lightweight, inexpensive rod and reel combination for probably somewhere around $50. They make all different kinds of them and they're adequate for this kind of fishing. If you just want to test it out and see if you can get into this and enjoy it and have some success and have some fun and have some food, well, that's a good way to do this. Make sure, though, when you buy that rod that you put a very lightweight line on it. In other words, you want to use a 2-pound or a 4-pound monofilament. I prefer trilene monofilament. I prefer 2-pound. You will also want to set aside a little bit of money to buy some lures. And the lures that I'm recommending are the Panther Martin lures. They're spinning lures, and they're very, very effective. As I said earlier, the one that has a black spinner and has a black body, has black hooks, and an 1/8 ounce is very, very effective. And it's also very affordable. These lures go for somewhere around $3.50 to somewhere around $4.50. And if you can't find the black ones, well, you can pick some others and try them. Most of them work. I just find that the black ones tend to work very well year-round in every place that I go, whether I'm fishing in a river or I'm fishing in a small stream or I'm fishing in a lake like I am in this video. Now, we want to talk a little bit about fishing for food. You know, I'm taking this line and this lure and I'm casting it out just kind of straight out from the bank about 50 or 60 feet, and I'm slowly, maybe a slow to a moderate level of retrieve. I don't want to move too fast. I'm not setting the hook. I'm letting the fish kind of take the hook and set the hook themselves. They do a great job of that. There's no need for you to just rip back and try to set the hook. They hit hard. They pull away fast. They tend to set the hook themselves. I've lost very few of these trout by just letting them set the hook. I've lost more of them by setting the hook myself. So easy cast out there. You don't have to cast super far. Bring it back, slow to moderate retrieve. And remember that you're using a treble hook. Now this is important because if you're fishing for food, this treble hook has barbs on it and it's going to lock into the fish when they bite it, and it's going to be a little bit difficult to remove from the fish. And so you're going to have a possibility that this fish is going to swallow the hook and get it pretty deep inside of them and will maybe not survive if you return them to the water. In fact, out of the 26 fish that I caught on this day in Colorado, I had one of them that I released into the water. I tried to revive him by pushing him back and forth a little bit to get some more oxygen into his gills. And he swam away, but just a few moments later, I noticed that he was belly up and floating across the lake. Now, I tend to like to want to eat those fish myself, but I know that that fish is not going to go to waste. There are coyotes, there are fox, there are birds of prey in the area. Something is going to enjoy and find sustenance from that fish. But keep in mind that if you're going to use treble hooks, there's a possibility that you're going to hurt the fish to a point where it cannot be released successfully back into the water. And so, if you're going to fish for food, that's fine. If you're going to fish for fun, you might want to crimp the barbs on the hook so that you can successfully release them back into the water and they can live and go on to be caught another day. Let's talk for just a moment about enjoying creation. I believe that God created the heavens and the earth and everything that exists within them, and He created those things for our sustenance. He created them for our pleasure, so that we might be able to enjoy and to live in a habitat that will sustain us. And I believe that it's appropriate for us to go outside and to look at the beauty and the magnificence of God's creation, to appreciate the animals and the birds, to appreciate the fish, and to remember that God gave them to us both for our pleasure and for our sustenance. Every time I go out into the mountains and I go fishing or I go hunting, I'm reminded of God's magnificence and God's presence when I see the mountains, when I see the sunsets, when I see the beautiful animals and this incredible creation. I'm reminded of Psalm chapter 121, verse 1 and 2 that says, "I will lift up my eyes to the mountains. From where shall my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth." I hope that you will get out and that you will enjoy this incredible, beautiful, magnificent creation that God has provided for us for both our joy and for our sustenance. And I hope that you will find that friend who is closer than a brother and spend some time in the outdoors with them. Thanks for watching this video. God bless you. Get outdoors and have some fun.